Hello everyone, Toby from abletondrummer.com here. I want to show you how you can use the Nektar Pacer MIDI foot pedal for live looping in Ableton Live. I'm using a certain technique here. I'm using actually two Max for Live devices of mine here. I developed the one button live looper, which is a really great tool and gives you some advantages for live looping in Ableton Live. So this is one Max for Live, one technique here, and we're combining this technique with another Max for Live device of mine, which is the foot control for the Nektar Pacer. So where to start? Well, the one button live looper first. This technique, there are separate videos I will link in the video description here, where I will guide you through how to set this up, like the single techniques here and how to use them. I wanted to make a video where I combine those two because it gives you a lot of advantages here. So one advantage, or a few advantages of the one button live looper here, is that you're actually able to create presets and direct MIDI mappings, which you can recall for other presets, or as a preset you can recall those tracks and those things you set up for live looping with your Nektar Pacer or with other MIDI gear here as well. You are able to record every stem or every layer of your looping separately in the arrangement, and you can edit this afterwards. Plus you get a really nice visual representation. So for example, if I hit record here, you can see that the button is turning red if it's recording, and now if it's relooping or replaying the first layer, you will see that it's turning green. You're actually able to delete the last layer or delete all layers or stop the looper here, for example, which is this button here, and now it's stopped. So let's delete everything, so it's quick and easy. And you could hear a little shaker in the background, which is just the tempo which I was giving here in the back. So let's start with the Pacer device here. So how is this set up? And let's maybe fold down a few things here and just focus on the Pacer. So this would be the first track. This MIDI track here, the first track, it's a MIDI track, and my Max for Live device, the dynamic MIDI foot control for the Pacer, is sitting on this track. It is receiving MIDI in from the Pacer. The monitor is set to in, so the notes I'm sending in from the Pacer are always going through and in here. So now if I hit something on here, you can see it's receiving MIDI and it's mapped up to receive, and you can see that on the device itself. So for example, if I press the first button here, you can see visually it is receiving that, giving you a visual feedback here as well. So the Pacer foot controller can be set up to control things globally. So for example, I set up the last one here to start and stop the transport. So if I turn on my last track here just for showing purposes, so I start the transport and I can stop the transport with this last button here. So those are global actions. You get a menu here where you can select the action, and then for example, if I want to if I delete this just for showing purposes, and if I set this up for the transport, which is here, transport. Now I go to this field here and I hit sync, and now this one is set, and I want this globally. I'm going to explain this in a second. So I apply the lock here as well. So now this button here is starting and stopping my transport, or the global start and stop from Ableton Live. Okay, so I explain how to set up the Pacer in a separate video for this device. So you would need to load a preset on the Pacer so that it's sending out MIDI notes, and the MIDI notes which are going into this device, and then from this device you can actually set up global controls, preset up, preset down, or sending out notes here as well. And this note section, so the first 5 here, those are things I set up to control my first looper. So for example, if I want to set up a C3 on the first one, and this is just a random note here I picked, so I said, okay, I want to start from C3 going up chromatically up to E3 here. So what I do is I select note, I put in the note value I want to have. I can use arrow up and arrow down as well to put in values here, and then I press on S for the first on the first slot here on the device. And now if I'm pressing this button here, it's sending out a C3, and this C3 we're gonna use now for the second device we're using here for the looper. Okay, so let's make this a little bit smaller again, and let's focus on the first looper here. So the one button live looper setup as well is explained in a separate video, in quite a few videos, but if you're interested in the one button live looper, you can get this link in the video description. So we got this looper here. So if we have a look on the first looper here, so this is the device which has this looper here. It's being hosted in this device, sitting on a MIDI track. Again, all explained in a separate video to understand the whole logic here. So I want to go into both techniques together, so I'm not going to explain everything of the looper here. Just follow the link in the video description if you want to understand, and if you're interested in the one button live looper separately as well. Okay, so the one button live looper, obviously you can MIDI map stuff here via the native MIDI map menu. So you can MIDI map via a MIDI controller things. Just select the rec and loop, play, the delete last action, delete all layers, or stop buttons here via MIDI control. But what you can do as well is you can receive MIDI notes via the track in. So you don't use this native MIDI map settings or mapping here. You are using a direct note in. You're sending a note from the Pacer directly into the track. And then you need to switch on those fields here below to receive those notes. And you need to set up the note pitches here to receive this. So we already have we are receiving notes on the first track here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So we are first receiving notes on the first track from the Pacer here directly. Okay, MIDI from Pacer is going into this track here. It's being received in this device, and we redefined the note pitches here. For example, at the moment we are sending out a C3, C# 3 in this octave on those 5 pedals here. Now we want to control our first looper here on this track with those MIDI notes we are now sending out Okay, so somehow I forgot in the video to show you that you actually need to receive the MIDI on the looper track. So the looper is sitting on a MIDI track, and you can see here that the MIDI from is being received from my Pacer control in MIDI track. So you need to set this up, the MIDI from to the track you have the Pacer control device sitting on. This way, the new MIDI notes, the C3 up to the E3 in this example, are being received on this track. For this, we just need to switch on those direct note in fields here. We press on S, for example, and then we hit this button here, and the looper already starting because it's now receiving a C3. But this is all you need to do to sync up all those different actions here. Okay, and as you can see now, this is triggering the looper already. So if I have the looper here, for example, if I now hit the first button on my Pacer, it's gonna start recording on the next one because global quantization is set to 1 bar here, which makes sense for most use cases. So now it's recording. If I press this again, it's relooping. Okay, so this is one step deeper here. Why am I making the step of sending stuff first to my Pacer plugin and then to the looper? So beauty here is if I'm using my Pacer plugin in between, I'm able to set up more layers on here. So for example, I want to control my second looper, which I set up here. So if we have a look, I have a second looper here. If I open this bomb, so that's for the first looper is for the piano sounds, and the second looper is for the drum sounds. First looper for the second looper. So I want to use the Nektar Pacer for the first looper and for the second looper. And maybe if I don't have enough, if I want to control everything, I might not have enough, or I might even want to set up 4 loopers or 5 loopers or 6 loopers. So I need more buttons than the Pacer is giving me here. So I need to go to a different preset and send different MIDI notes to control the second looper here. And I can do this via my Pacer plugin here. So for example, you got a number here, and if we go up and down, you can see I'm going to a different preset here. So if I'm going even one further up or another up or another up, you can see I can define those different presets on here. What I did was, as well, I'm able to go one preset up or down via those buttons here as well. So obviously I don't want to go to the computer to go to the next preset. I want to switch the presets on here. So let me quickly show you how you can set this up. So I have the opportunity to go to a map parameter. I have to select this, and let's say I want to go up with this here. So I'm gonna select the up preset up here, and now it's showing me preset up is the last parameter I touched, and I want to set this to this here, to this stomp here via pressing S. If I now lock this, it will be globally. So even if I'm now changing to a different preset, this will control preset up all the time. Let us do the same for preset down. I hit on preset down once, and I can see preset down is now being selected. I hit S for syncing this to this button here, and I hit the lock as well. So now this one is always going one preset down, and this one is going one preset up. Okay, so this way I can control different mappings I want to have on the Pacer here. So this is the advantage, or this is the main reason why it could make sense to have my Pacer control plugin in between the Pacer and controlling my one-button live looper. So let's go to preset number 2. And as you can see on number 2, I set up to send out different MIDI notes via those 5 buttons here. Then on preset 1. On preset 1, I got C3 up to E3. On preset 2, I got C4 up to E4, okay? And those different notes here are now being sent to my second looper. So if I have a look in my second looper, and that's a little bit, it's a lot of tracks and tracks grouping here, so I can have a look in my second looper here. So this is the track where my second looper is sitting. If you get the one-button live looper, you get an example set where this is set up already, and I go through this in the one-button live looper run-through manual video. So you will understand this there. And this looper 2 is receiving from the Pacer control in track. So this is one thing I forgot to mention for the first looper here as well. Obviously, if we have, and let's fold this down. So if we have the first track here receiving MIDI from the Pacer direct MIDI in, is being selected here. No output. You don't want this to be sent anywhere else. But now if you go into your looper, so for example, looper 1, the MIDI from should be set to receive from the first track, which is called Pacer control in. So from this track where I change and repitch the MIDI notes via this device here. So those notes are now being forwarded into this track here and are being received in this track here. So this is a setting you need to have for all your different loopers. So if we go to the second looper, let's fold down the loopers here. So you can see in my second looper, I received the MIDI from the Pacer control in track, so from the first track here as well. And I can set up this looper, the second looper here, to listen to the other MIDI notes I set up in my Pacer control. So on my second layer here, I have C4, C#4, and so on and so forth. And those are the notes which are being mapped in here to control those actions for the looper number 2. Okay? So this is a little bit overwhelming, I think so. Especially for people who are starting out. So if you're starting out, I highly recommend to first watch the full run-through video of the one-button live looper to understand what's happening here, and then to have a look on the Pacer control. Or you don't necessarily need the Pacer control to do this. You can send direct MIDI notes to the looper straight here as well, or even use the native MIDI map. If you want to go more loopers, and if you want to control more loopers with just one Pacer, you might need more pages inside the Pacer, or you could use my device. I think it's visually quite nice and a little bit easier to set up. Obviously, starting out with those things and techniques is like learning a new instrument. It takes some time and it takes some trial and error before you get this. Okay, so let me show you how the whole setup works now. If we set this up, and we can actually have this one all being shown here. So I open the loopers and I place them like here. So let's go through this step by step. So I have a shaker on this last track here, which is just giving me some orientation for the metronome. I can set up the metronome here as well. Let's make the Pacer control loop a little bit bigger so we can see something here. Maybe if I put this down here, so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so let's go to preset number 1. So for example, if I'm starting out, I could start the transport, which is set up via the last button on the Pacer Looper device here. So this is start and stop, and if as I set this to this lock symbol here, so this will be an action happening on all different layers in the Pacer control. Okay, so I could start this loop here, and maybe if I want to find a different tempo, I have a tap function here, which is set globally as well at this point, so I can do it a little bit faster maybe. So I found a nice tempo here, so if I start this again, 2, 3. I could even turn on and off the metronome here, because I set this up to the second button here, if I need more orientation. And then I could start looping, so if I'm on layer 1 and hit this button here now, it will trigger record for the first looper. Let's make sure I'm set up here. 3, 4. And I hit reloop again, 2, 3, 4. So my first loop is now playing. If I hit the loop again, I can record the next part here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the second loop is playing already. Let's turn off the metronome. Much nicer. So I could now go to the next preset here, go one preset up. So now I'm on preset number 2 on my Pacer controller, and I now control via the same buttons record for the next looper. So I have this drum pad here. I could hit record, and on the next one it will record. 2, 3, 4. And maybe add some more stuff on here. And hit record. Maybe I play something wrong and I want to delete the last one. So I can do this via this button here now, which is the orange one here for delete the last layer. So let's do this. So the last layer is deleted, and I record this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I want to delete all of the loops. I have this red X here, which I map to this one. So now the looper is cleared here altogether. So this is one way for live looping in Ableton Live. It's not the only way, obviously, but it gives you some advantages over some techniques. Obviously, you need to find out what kind and what way of looping makes sense for you and for your use case. And the one button live looper can't meet all those needs, but trust me, a lot of people already told me, wow, this is really the thing I was looking for, and this is it opens up a lot of techniques and a lot of possibilities. So the point I'm trying to make here is please watch the videos, and I linked in the video description, and for you to find out if this is really going your direction. So yes, what else? This is one way. It's quite deep already, because we are sending MIDI from the Pacer to the first device here, the Pacer control, foot control device. And it gives us the advantage of setting up different layers here and changing up those layers, and having those buttons doing different things. Can be done via the Pacer itself as well. If you want to go that road, have fun, because Nektar even didn't provided a editing software for that, so you need to go in here and do some stuff. But there is a third-party controller here, so it is all possible. But if you really want to go that route and use Ableton Live as well, I think visually the Pacer foot control device of mine gives you some nice visual explanation of where you are and what you do. So this is the first device, and then from the Pacer controller it's being sent out and forwarded to the looper devices here. So that's why it might be a little bit hard to understand for some people here, especially for people who are starting out. So for people who are starting out, again, please watch the other tutorials first and then go follow here. When you understood this system here, this gives you a lot of control, because you could have like your first, like you can have, like with just this setup here, you can have a lot of possibilities playing a full show just with those devices here, going quite deep and customizing things to your needs. You can have global controls, tap the tempo, turning the metronome on and off, or other things, transport, play and stop. You know, you get full control and set this up and customize this to your needs. And this is the advantage here. Visual feedback as well if you need this. Plus you can record every layer individually in the arrangement view and re-edit this afterwards if you want to mix your live performance you just made and you want to take out some part of that and do that as a release that as a recording. That's possible via this technique. So some advantages here over other techniques, but it's for you to decide if it's right or not. Okay, so one might say, Toby, why aren't you using just the blue MIDI map, the native MIDI map menu here? And as you can see, you can map stuff to the looper here as well. But there is a big reason for that, why I'm suggesting doing the direct MIDI into a track and control via that function here. So first of all, it's a little bit more stable, and the big advantage here is you can actually recall those routings and those mappings straight away in a different Ableton Live set. So for example, if we save this set here and say, okay, this is our template set for two loopers, controlling two loopers via the Nektar, going into the Nektar control first and then controlling the loopers. So now if we open up a new set, so if I want to recall those things here, I can just go and navigate to the Ableton Live folder where I saved this set. So this is on my desktop currently here, and we got all those tracks showing up here, and I can just drag and drop those full set up here. So I have to drag and drop this at the top bar, and then it's loading it, and you can see it's recalling even the positions here. So just let us quickly check. So we have now the Pacer control in this new set, all being set up already, receiving Pacer from the MIDI, going into the looper here, and is changing the different layers, and then this is being routed into my looper track here. Let's maybe move those a little so we can see a little bit more of the screen. Maybe let's fold down the second looper window here. So, and this one is going into my looper. All the mappings on the device itself are being set up already. Direct MIDI mapping into a track. So, and it is receiving, the track is receiving from the Pacer control in track. So it is receiving the MIDI notes already. You need to hit refresh once on the looper, just because the looper is looking for the next 10 tracks and needs to refresh this once. Now it's done already. And if I hit my looper here now, you can see it's recording already. Everything is being re-looped fine, and I have full control already just by drag and dropping things into a new Ableton Live set. So This can become a real time saver. Here, if you're building stuff, and you have your building blocks and you can just chuck stuff in if you're preparing for a different live show and you think, well, I could need some more different loopers or different layers, or I forgot to start off with the MIDI mapping there. No problem here, because you can just quickly drag and drop stuff in here and then have this added to the Ableton Live set you're just working on. Again, those are Max for Live devices for Ableton Live. Max for Live is needed to make use of those. Max for Live is included in Ableton Live Suite or can be bought as an add-on towards Ableton Live Standard. Cool, take care and happy looping.